Good morning everyone. Myself Purnima. I am the student of Tirumal Classes. I am here to explain about the greenhouse gases. First of all, what is meant by greenhouse gases? These are the gases which are present in the atmosphere that trap the heat in the atmosphere and prevent it from escaping into the space. And also it absorbs and emits the radiation. These are the gases which led to the contributing to global warming and adverse climate changes. Now let's see what are the major greenhouse gases that are present in the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide. These are the major contributor to global warming and it also lives in the long span in the atmosphere. The major sources for release of CO2 into the atmosphere was, the first one was fossil fuels. Burning of fossil fuels. In the thermal plants, they used to burn the fossil fuels for natural gas and electricity, which produces huge amounts of CO2 into the atmosphere. And the another source for emission of CO2 was deforestation. Basically, trees are absorber of carbon and release the oxygen. But here the problem is increasing the human activities like urbanization, industrialization and agricultural activities, which tend to cut the trees, which are re-release the CO2 into the atmosphere, which makes earth more warmer. And the another source of emission of CO2 was decomposition. Decomposition of organic matter in the lands, which also releases the CO2 into the atmosphere. And the another source was volcanic eruptions. At the time of volcanic eruptions also CO2 was highly released into the atmosphere. Let us see another major important greenhouse gas, that is methane, which is very dangerous compared to CO2. But here the thing is, it has a short term lifespan. So that's why the impact was very less. But let us see what are the sources for emission of methane. The first one was agriculture, mainly the flooded paddy fields, which have anaerobic bacteria which decomposes the organic matter. As a byproduct, methane was released into the atmosphere. And the second source for release of methane was burning of biomass. Burning of biomass is nothing but burning of wood and crops waste, which releases huge amounts of methane. And the next source was at the time of coal mining also, methane was released into the atmosphere. Let us see third major greenhouse gas, that is nitrous oxide, N2O, which is 300 times more potent than the CO2 at heating the atmosphere. It lives in the atmosphere average 114 years. Let us see what are the sources for emission of N2O. The first source was agriculture, where nitrogen fertilizers were used in the agriculture, which contains urea that releases huge amounts of nitrous oxide into the atmosphere. And the second source was animal livestock manure also releases N2O, which this is the gas which depletes the ozone layer also. Let's see, the fourth one was chlorofluorocarbons, which are present in the air conditioners, refrigerators and other cooling systems. So these are the major greenhouse gases that are present in the atmosphere. Let us see what are the impacts and effects of greenhouse gases. So these are the major important effects and impacts. The first one is rise in global temperatures. Due to high level of greenhouse gases that increases the temperature, and also that led to adverse impacts on human, plants, animals and other living organisms on the earth. And the second impact was rise in sea level. Due to high temperatures, the melting of glaciers and ice sheets, which raises the volume of the sea, which is adversely impact the coastal communities. And the third was absorption of CO2 by oceans. Basically, oceans absorbs the CO2 at an extent level, but excessive absorption of CO2 by the oceans, it lead to the acidification of oceans, which is very dangerous for marine life. And the next was extreme weather events. Due to rise in greenhouse gases, the frequent disasters like heat waves, droughts, floods are increased. Due to increase in greenhouse gases concentration that adversely impact the human life, which spread the diseases like heat stress and other physical and mental disorders. And the next and last one was economic consequences. Due to these greenhouse gases, the frequent climate disasters and changes in weather patterns, which are highly affect any economy of the country, but mostly it shows the effect in vulnerably developing countries. So these are the major impacts and effects of the greenhouse gases. So now we see what are the mitigation measures that we should take. Now let's see what are the mitigation measures. The first one was Transition to renewable energy sources. We should reduce the usage of fossil fuels and shift towards solar, wind, hydrogen sources, which are very needed for sustainable development. And the second was the government should invest on climate resilient infrastructure, like developing the transport and electricity at the time of disaster, which is very needed for the remote areas peoples and communities. It protect the communities. And the third one was the international cooperation. International cooperation means sharing the knowledge, technology, and helping at the times of disasters, which are very much needed. So these are the mitigation measures. As a finally, I wanted to say that as a future bureaucrats, we should reduce the uses of fossil fuels and shifting towards the renewable energy sources. We should conserve our environment. Thank you.